On this episode of Journey of Inner Light, we're discussing who was Jesus and God's love for all his children. So sit back and open your heart, because this message is not the typical religious canon. For a lot of people, spirituality, or having faith, is about a sense of connection, a belief that there's something bigger than us, a deeper meaning to life. Maybe you feel that when you're out in nature, or when you're quiet and reflecting on your life, or when you're moved by a piece of music or art. Spirituality, at its core, is personal. It's about your own journey, your questions, your wonder. Religion, on the other hand, usually means belonging to a specific group, following certain traditions, rituals, or rules. There's often a structure, leaders, sacred texts, ceremonies, and beliefs you're expected to agree with. For some people, religion is a source of comfort and community. For others, it can feel restrictive, even confusing. So where does Jesus fit in? Here's what's surprising. Jesus was deeply spiritual. He talked about faith as something alive and personal, not a checklist or a club. He constantly challenged empty rituals and rules for the sake of rules. Instead, he invited people to trust, to believe, to open their hearts, to experience God for themselves. But Jesus also made a unique claim, that God's love was for everyone, not just for those who followed the rules, or those born into the right group, or those who had their act together. He told stories of lost sheep, wayward children, and people whose society had written off, always with the same lesson. God's love chases after us, no matter how far we wander. And when it came to forgiveness, Jesus made it simple and radical. He said, "All you need to do is believe in me and ask." That's it. No hoops to jump through, no rituals to memorize, no proving yourself worthy first. Just believe. Just ask. He told people, "Your sins are forgiven." He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He taught that God isn't keeping score or waiting to punish you. Instead, God is waiting to forgive, to embrace, and to welcome you home. So if you're wondering whether you have to be religious to know God, the answer, at least according to Jesus, is no. What matters isn't perfect attendance, or having all the answers, or fitting into a mold. What matters is faith, a willingness to believe that God loves you, forgives you, and wants a relationship with you. So wherever you are, spiritual, curious, doubting, or believing, know this: God's love is for you. All you have to do is reach out. Let's talk about something science is starting to catch up with: how being spiritual can actually change your mind, your mood, and your life for the better. Maybe you've noticed that when you take time to pray, meditate, or just sit quietly and reflect, you feel calmer, like a weight has lifted. That's not just your imagination. Studies have shown that people who nurture their spiritual side, whether that's through prayer, meditation, gratitude, or simply believing in something greater than themselves, often report less anxiety, less depression, and greater resilience in the face of stress. Spirituality gives us a bigger perspective. When you feel connected to something beyond yourself, it's like you remember you're not alone. Life's challenges don't disappear, but they don't feel so overwhelming. There's hope, sometimes even joy, in the middle of the chaos. And it's not just about feeling good. People who are spiritual tend to have stronger relationships, more compassion, and a deeper sense of purpose. They're more likely to forgive, to help others, and to bounce back from life's tough moments. That's real, and it's powerful. You don't have to call it religion. You don't have to have all the answers. Just showing up with an open heart, asking questions, seeking meaning, taking time to be still, can change your inner world. And that change starts to ripple out into everything else. So if you've been longing for more peace, more purpose, or a deeper sense of belonging, try opening up to the spiritual side of life. Not because you should, but because you deserve to feel connected, whole, and truly alive. Let's travel back more than 2,000 years to a world that looked nothing like ours today. Picture the hills of Galilee, fields of wildflowers, olive trees, small villages clustered on the slopes. Life was tough for most people. Rome ruled the land with soldiers and taxes, and the gap between rich and poor was huge. Now, in this world, a child is born in a humble town called Nazareth. His name? Jesus. By trade, he's a carpenter, growing up in a working-class family, learning the rhythms of simple life, hard work, family meals, local traditions. But here's what's important. The people around Jesus are hoping for a hero. They're waiting for someone to change everything. A king, a warrior, maybe a prophet who'd overthrow their oppressors. Their religious leaders are powerful, respected, and strict about who's in and who's out with God. Jesus doesn't fit any of those expectations. He never leads an army. He doesn't hold a political office. Instead, he starts walking from village to village, teaching, listening, and sharing meals with everyone, especially people at the margins. The world he enters is obsessed with boundaries. Who's clean or unclean, who's blessed or cursed, who's worthy or unworthy. But Jesus ignores those lines. He chooses ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, outcasts, as his friends and followers. He touches lepers, eats with sinners, and welcomes those religion had pushed out. This isn't just background. It's the setup for everything he'll do and say. In an age of walls and hierarchy, Jesus brings something completely different. A message that God's love isn't reserved for the elite, but poured out for everyone. The stage is set. A simple man in a complicated world, about to say things nobody expected, and to live a life that would change history. Let's pause here because this is where things get really interesting. Here's what's wild. Jesus didn't show up and start building big, powerful institutions. He didn't lay down a list of rules you had to follow just to get on God's good side. In fact, he often challenged the idea that you could earn God's love at all. His message was clear: God's love is a gift, and not something that is earned through payment, actions, or deeds. God loves all unconditionally, sinners included. He looked people in the eye, people who'd been told they were too poor, too broken, too sinful, or too different, and told them, "You are loved. You are seen. You belong." He said this not just with words, but with every action, by healing, forgiving, and breaking bread with those nobody else wanted near. That message was, and still is, radical. No exceptions, no fine print, no secret handshake or membership card. Jesus made it clear. God's love isn't something you have to fight for, buy, or beg for. It's already yours. He didn't just preach this in sermons, he lived it. When others avoided the sick, he touched them. When others judged the outcasts, he welcomed them in. When others drew lines, he crossed them. The heart of his message? That you, yes you, wherever you are in your journey, are already loved by God. This proclamation that all are loved by God was what got Jesus in trouble with Jewish religious leaders. He challenged their authority by simply stating that you did not earn God's love, that you did not need to be part of any particular religious order. You simply have God's love from the beginning. Let's picture one of the most powerful moments in Jesus' life, a conversation at a well in the heat of the day. Most people avoided this woman. She came to draw water alone, at a time when no one else would be around. But Jesus is there, waiting. He asks her for a drink, breaking a social rule. He's a man, she's a woman, he's Jewish, she's Samaritan. In their world, these boundaries matter. But to Jesus, what matters most is the person right in front of him. She asks him, "Why are you, a Jew, talking to me, a Samaritan woman?" And then, like so many of us, she asks a religious question. Where's the right place to worship God? Is it on this mountain, like her people taught, or in Jerusalem, like the Jews said? Jesus' answer changes everything. He says, "Believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem, but the hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." In other words, God isn't tied to a place. You don't need a temple, a church, or a special ritual to connect with the divine. What matters is your heart, your spirit, your honesty. The woman's eyes widen. She came for water, but she leaves with something deeper: hope, dignity, the knowledge that she matters to God. It's a pattern we see over and over in Jesus' life. He meets people right where they are, no matter their history, their questions, or what others say about them. He tears down the walls that keep people out and invites everyone in, just as they are. Let's take a second and really let that story sink in. Jesus told the woman at the well, and by extension, all of us, that God isn't limited by buildings, traditions, or geography. You can reach out to the divine wherever you are, just as you are. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt a deep sense of peace or connection in an unexpected place? Maybe it was during a quiet walk in nature, or lying awake at night, or even in the middle of a tough moment when you just needed help. That's spirituality. That's faith in action, raw, personal, and real. And here's something powerful. You don't need to have all the right words. You don't need a script. You don't need to be in a church or know every religious tradition. You can talk to God in your car, in your kitchen, on a mountaintop, or in your lowest moment. You don't have to be religious or even prayed in the past. You don't have to be free from sin. What matters is that you come honestly, with an open heart. I'd love to hear from you. When have you felt closest to God or had a spiritual experience, especially outside of any religious setting? Share your story in the comments below. Whether it's a big moment or something small, your experience matters and might inspire someone else. This channel is a community. We're here to learn from each other, to listen and grow together. So don't be shy. Your journey is important, and your perspective is valued. Let's bring this message into our world today. When we look at how Jesus lived, how he was always reaching out, always breaking boundaries, always lifting up the people everyone else ignored, we see something beautiful: love in action. Jesus walked with sinners, and those society at the time deemed unworthy. So despite what some may claim, your lifestyle does not dictate your worth in the eyes of God, be it straight, gay, or agnostic. God makes no mistakes, and we have all been created for a purpose, God's purpose, to which only He knows the reasons why. To truly follow in what Jesus' message is, you see everyone as someone worthy, and to love, not just the rich and religious, not just those who have prayed in the past. Jesus didn't just preach about love, He showed it. When He saw someone hungry, He fed them. When He saw someone hurting, He healed them. When He found someone left out, He invited them in. Over and over, His actions sent the same message: you matter, no matter what anyone else says. That's what real faith and spirituality look like. It's not about following rules to the letter or looking a certain way on the outside. It's about seeing the image of God in everyone you meet and responding with kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of that kind of love, or maybe you've been the one reaching out. Either way, every time we choose kindness, forgiveness, or understanding, we're living out the heart of Jesus' message, God's love, flowing through us to everyone around us. Reflect on that for a moment. Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." He didn't say, "Love your neighbor if they believe what you do," or if they fit your expectations. He simply said, "Love." And that love? It's not limited to grand gestures or special occasions. Sometimes it's as simple as listening, forgiving, or showing someone they matter. It's in the everyday choices we make, choosing kindness over judgment, empathy over anger, connection over isolation. You never know when your simple smile at a random person could save their life. Maybe they were depressed, feeling unnoticed by everyone, but your smile, seemingly insignificant to you, might be the sign that depressed person needed to feel seen. Maybe just listening while someone vents out their frustration will be just the outlet they needed to calm down before doing something impulsive. Sometimes all you have to do is just be there for someone. Words aren't always needed. It's actions. And sometimes the ones we see as insignificant to us might mean the world to someone else. Here's what's so powerful. Jesus didn't just talk about love. He lived it, even when it was hard. He welcomed people others rejected. He forgave those who betrayed him. He offered hope to people who'd lost theirs. He didn't care about someone's status, background, or reputation. He cared about their heart. And that means you can pray in your car, on a mountain, in your kitchen, or even in your lowest moment. Jesus prayed in gardens, on hillsides, wherever he was. He didn't wait for the right time or place. He just spoke honestly, from the heart. You don't need fancy words or perfect faith. You don't need to check every religious box. God's love is already reaching out to you, right here, right now. All you have to do is open up and receive it. Let's bust a big myth that's been floating around for way too long. You do not need religion to talk to God. Seriously. There's no secret password, no VIP access, no scorecard you have to fill out before God will listen. A lot of people think faith is about jumping through hoops, memorizing rituals, or following a script. But if you look at what Jesus actually taught, it's almost the opposite. Some of Jesus' strongest words were for the religious leaders of his day, the folks who made faith about rules, appearances, and power. He saw how they'd turned spirituality into something burdensome and exclusive, something only a few people could ever get right. Jesus called them out. He said, "When you pray, don't do it for show. Don't stand on street corners trying to impress people. Instead," he said, "go to your room, close the door, and pray in secret. Your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." God sees you. God hears you. Not because you're perfect or because you do everything right, but because you're you, right where you are, right now. If you've ever felt like you're not religious enough or that you don't belong, remember, Jesus was on your side. He believed that the heart matters more than any ritual or title. Faith is about relationship, not performance. So drop the checklist. Let go of trying to earn love. Just show up, honestly, imperfectly, as yourself. That's all God asks. If you've ever felt like you're not good enough for church, or like you don't fit in, or maybe even if you've been hurt by religion, please hear this. You're not alone, and you're not the problem. Jesus spent his time with people who were left out, doubted, or labeled as the wrong kind. He reached out to the lonely, the broken, the questioning. He welcomed those who had been pushed to the edges of society, or faith. He didn't draw lines or keep score. He offered understanding, forgiveness, and a place at the table. When everyone else saw someone as unworthy, Jesus saw someone worth loving. So if you're carrying wounds from religion or feeling like you don't measure up, remember, Jesus gets it. He was never about barriers or perfection. He was about love that finds you right where you are, just as you are. You are loved, you are seen, and you're welcome here in this community and, more importantly, in the heart of God. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to pretend. You just have to be you. We've covered a lot today, more than just stories or ideas. We've explored the difference between being religious and being spiritual, and why you don't need rituals or a building to talk to God. We saw how Jesus welcomed everyone, no matter their background or baggage, and taught that God's love is for all, no exceptions. We looked at how real faith isn't about checking boxes, but about opening your heart, loving others, and being honest in your search for meaning, and what it means to be a true Christian, believing in and following the teachings of Jesus. We talked about how acts of kindness, even the small ones, are the heartbeat of real spirituality, how you can find the divine in quiet moments, in nature, in the simple act of showing up for someone else. And we saw that spirituality isn't just good for your soul, it's good for your mind and your life too. Wherever you are on your journey, full of faith, full of questions, or somewhere in between, remember you belong here. You're not alone in your doubts or your hopes. Here, we're building a community where every story matters and every voice is welcome. So as you go back to your day, remember, God's love doesn't have prerequisites. You can pray anywhere, love anyone, and start again at any moment. Your inner light matters. Let it shine. If today's conversation spoke to you or sparked questions, share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your story, your struggles, and your insights. And if you haven't already, Subscribe and join us for more honest conversations about faith, spirituality, and living with purpose. Thank you for being here, for showing up as you are. Until next time, keep seeking, keep loving, and keep letting your light grow.